Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. Today's episode is called Why Buying a Mansion is Usually a Very Bad Business Idea. For a lot of people, the American dream has always been about making enough money to buy that huge mansion. We're going to tell you why that is a terrible idea. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, follow, and comment on the show. And also to tell you that the show was sponsored by HollywoodIsCalling.com. It's a company which allows you to purchase live phone calls with your favorite celebrities. You can do it for yourself, $19.95 for a live call, or you can purchase one as a gift for somebody you know and then just sit back and watch them enjoy it. HollywoodIsCalling.com. Great company. Now let's get started. There are countless shows on television and YouTube revealing how celebrities and other VIPs buy mansions, how they love their mansions, how they upgrade their mansions. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you the other side of that coin. You know, the shows that are on television or the internet now, they always like to focus on all the enormous rooms, the gaudy furniture, the obscenely overpriced artwork, all that stuff that your divorce lawyer is going to give to your spouse in a few years if your marriage goes down the tubes. They love to show your exotic cars, the ridiculously overpriced and tacky clothing that these celebrities wear and buy. They like to boast. They like to show their two-story closets with enormous ladders so you can crawl up to the second level and grab that $2,000 pair of shoes, all that nonsense. Next, the shows will reveal all the jewelry that the celebrities have purchased. They purchased this jewelry, at stores in New York or Beverly Hills, and because of the zip code, the salesperson is able to somehow convince them that it makes sense to spend 50 times more for that piece of jewelry here than you would at any other marketplace in the United States, simply because of the zip code. After that, the shows will feature the celebrities or VIPs entourage sitting around and doing nothing but smoking weed and trolling the internet for women pretending not to be hookers. That's the sort of nonsense these shows they like to feature. What these TV shows they don't reveal is what happens in a few years down the road after the celebrity gets a divorce, goes to rehab a couple dozen times, gets arrested so often that no producer will want to hire them and no insurance company will want to insure them. What people really need to see are the monthly bills that these people rack up. And they should be asked, on what planet did you think it made sense to spend $200,000 to fly you and your friends to New York on a private jet when you could have gotten first class tickets for 10% of that? And usually the celebs will, they'll lean over and whisper, it's just cheaper. It's cheaper and safer to transport the weed and the drugs on a private jet than it is commercial. That's the kind of moronic logic that's so pervasive out there. Another reason that actors and VIPs often lose their mansions is because of all the secret child support they're paying to groupies or strangers they've had one-night stands with. And, I don't care how much money you have, if you're paying mountains of child support each month to women that you don't want your wife to find out about, that usually blows up in the end. It detonates in a really bad way and usually ends up in a divorce. Another reason that so many of these people lose their mansions is because a celebrity will often do some things foolish or illegal. They'll be seen or videotaped doing something in public that is just so criminal or so bizarre that sponsors will cancel their contracts with them. Nothing will cause a $20 million sponsorship to go up in smoke faster than video of you on TMZ running down the street buck naked chasing after a rooster or getting into a fist fight with a police officer or something else bizarre. You know, people don't realize how precious sponsorships are. Um, and they disappear really quickly when you display when you're publicly filmed displaying that kind of depraved behavior. So what should you do when you get that crazy urge to buy an enormous mansion to live in? Well, I believe that before you're allowed to cash your first check, your manager or your agent should arrange to have you work at a fast food restaurant. A good 60-hour shift for the week at a fast food restaurant where it's hot, greasy, stressful. You're surrounded by coworkers who are constantly yelling and screaming. Everybody's angry. You know, the kind of brutal 12-hour shifts that most celebrities have never worked in their lives. They think making movies are difficult, but they're really not. And the reason that I believe they should all be forced to work at a fast food restaurant before cashing their first seven-figure check is that that'll give you a tremendous appreciation for how difficult it really is to make money in the real world. The idea being that hopefully the memories of that week's work at that fast food restaurant will give you some pause before you spend stupid money on a stupid mansion. So what should you do? You know, you've got that enormous check. If you shouldn't buy a mansion, what should you do? Well, let me tell you. First, instead of buying a mansion, you should lease a small condo or a house in a gated community. And it should be one with a living, breathing security guard at the gate, not just some electronic keypad that you tap a number into. Next, instead of buying a mansion in some major market, you should buy an apartment building that generates positive cash flow. But don't buy it in the major coastal cities you probably live in. Go inland. Go into the Midwest. Go into North or South Carolina. Go to Tennessee. Go to Georgia. Someplace where you get much more for your dollar. Now, unlike the mansion, which you'll have to make a huge mortgage payment on each month, an apartment building will keep increasing in value each year because you're going to increase the rent a little bit each year. The nice thing about apartment buildings is that their value is not based on the comps of other buildings like mansions are. Their values are based on the amount of cash flow they generate. So every year when you increase that rent a little bit, the value of your building goes up dramatically. There are also tremendous tax benefits that you derive from owning an apartment building, and that'll make a huge difference when you file your taxes each year. I'll tell you something interesting. It's just an observation, but this pandemic has taught people that owning a cash-generating asset at a time when the phone may stop ringing can really provide you with a level of cushion that you need, financial cushion that you need to get you through the interruption in your day-to-day career. You can't really say that about mansion owners. You know, during an event like this, mansion owners don't really wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm so glad I have a $100,000 mortgage payment next month. I'm just really, really happy to have that. But you know what asset owners, apartment building owners say? They get up in the morning and they say, thank God I have an asset that continues to generate cash flow. And another thing is, how difficult is it, do you think, to sell an asset, to sell a mansion now during an event like this when everybody else is thinking they want to sell theirs as well? Now let's look into the near-term future. Let's fast forward a couple of years and let's pretend that you were one of the smart ones who decided to purchase a multi-unit apartment building. Maybe it's 8 units, maybe it's 64 units, you know, whatever you can afford. And let's say you were smart enough to buy it somewhere in the middle of the country, the Carolinas, the Deep South, perhaps even Florida. instead of investing it in some crazy mansion in New York or some other high tax state like California. Now, instead of paying $100,000 a month for your mortgage and maintenance, now you're receiving $25, $50, $100,000 a month in cash flow, and and that makes all the difference in lifestyle. And if 5 or 10 years from now the economy takes another dump and you're no longer beholden to your conventional income stream, you will have an asset now that will continue to strengthen your financial portfolio and keep food on the table for you and your family. As long as you continue to invest in, maintain, and take care of this asset, it will continue to generate the cash flow that's needed to take care of you. Now let's fast forward a few more years down the road, and let's assume that you've been doing modest rent increases for the last few years. The value of your apartment building has gone up dramatically. What should you do? What a lot of people do is they refinance, they take money out of their first property, and they buy a second, larger property with even more units. Now you'll have twice the cash flow. Why would you want to do that? Well, let me tell you. Because cash flow is how you accrue generational wealth, wealth that will be substantial enough to take care of your family, your grandchildren, for generations to come. Let all the other mansion owners who lived in homes that were far too large and ostentatious, lose everything in the next downturn, while you are strengthened by each downturn. And that's why buying a mansion is really a bad business move. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.